This one from Kron. Does it feel like JT has lost that strong defensive play from earlier in the season? Maybe they are leaning too hard on him in a matchup role.
Well, we know that historically he has not been a great defensive player. The one thing I would point out is that we have not seen the same amount of sort of gaffes that we have seen in past years. And I'm not just talking about like the video in Calgary last year of him, the terrible back check. I'm thinking about the bad turnovers on breakouts, the passes to the wrong stick. We just haven't seen as many of those. I last week, last Thursday, I was the guy after the game that said, "Hey, listen, you didn't play a lot tonight. Is that going to help you over the next week?" That's all I was going for. I wasn't actually kind of going, "Hey, I didn't think you played bro." I didn't actually think he played that badly.
No, yeah.
But he came out and said I was awful or thereabouts, and was really hard on him and his line and said quite clearly, we need to be better. We thank goodness the rest of the team picked up the slack, but like if we're going to be the matchup line, we have to be better. So I think he agrees with Karin.
Yeah, that's actually a great way to put it.
He agrees with your assessment. Yeah, you want players to be getting better. I mean, we heard Rick Tocchet talk the other day about the lot of meetings. We know JT Miller seems to enjoy these meetings.
Big meeting guy.
He's a big meeting guy. Yeah, I would say on the whole, like I've never thought, oh wow, what a great. Let me put it this way: I've never said, "Oh man, JT Miller was absolutely dominant defensively." But my assessment is like this for most players. Did they do anything? You went, "Oh man, what a mess!"
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he hasn't had that.
And a lot of times he did in the past.
Yeah, and he hasn't had that. So on the whole, I would say on the whole he is improved. Whether he's not playing as well lately, sure, I could buy that. Partly because I think it's inevitable given how. I think fatigue. I mean, they're coming to an end of an incredible run of games, right? Like every other night, basically since the end of October. And when you only have one day off between games, like that's really hard to recover. Mm-hmm. The demands on the body that an NHL game puts on you, and certainly we know that Rick. Part of what Rick Tocchet is trying to do is he tried to design a system that will make things when he says predictable, he really means he doesn't want guys to do anything more than they have to, but he wants them to do what they have to, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And a lot of that is that repeatability, doing things over and over and over again. But the longer you do that, inevitably the more tired you get, and when you get tired you make more mistakes. And so it's not really a half credit answer, but I would not have been surprised if we had seen mistakes creep into Miller's game. I have no doubt there's small little ones that, you find on endless video review, but in the big picture, I think he's doing fine. And look at how much time off the Canucks are going to have in the next,
like as of tomorrow,
right? Yeah. Like they fly home, they've got the game on Saturday. They're off till they're actually
January 2nd.
Well, they play one game, right? They play on next Thursday, but I'm just saying, like they're actually literally off the ice until next Wednesday.
Yes.
And so they have a bunch of days off, then they have a game, then they're off for a bunch more days, right? Like they've got one game in a week, and that's going to do wonders for the recovery. They obviously go out on that huge tough road trip in January, but then they get more time off.
Yeah.
They have come through such a gauntlet that overall, like if they don't come out in January out of this with an incredibly good record, then it's time to be worried. I'm not, even if I were perceiving issues in Miller's game, like big picture things, I wouldn't be worried right now. I will be worried in a month.
I like that. I like that take. Okay, here's one I want to throw.
I just wanted to chime in quickly on that, PJ. And then when we talked about this a little bit with Lindholm, with the trade possibility, do you think this team needs a true shutdown center kind of going down into the stretch run into the playoffs? Or do you think they can get by with Miller, Suter, and Blueger? Because we haven't really had enough of a sample with all three of those guys in the lineup together, right?
Well, I mean, it's not just about obviously the one guy anymore. It's about how well you're playing your system. And as I think we've all observed, right? Like the way the Canucks just haven't been breaking down defensively the same way they did last year or the year before. The cross ice pass, when those cross ice passes get through from the other team, we notice them because they've been so rare. And that is what I would say overall is the issue. I think I absolutely get the idea of, I mean, that goes back to what I said before. You just want to add more guys, right? And I think that's why Lindholm makes your team, or a guy like Lindholm would make your team better. But I also like your point, Grady. Like I am interested to see if they can get a bit of a go here with all those guys in the lineup. They haven't had that, how it works. Obviously they've taken Miller off the penalty kill, right? Like that's an example. Will that make the penalty kill that much better? And that's what we're going to see. I mean, I think that's the interesting things to see, especially as the season wears on. And like I said, they've come through this hard stretch. Now they have a chance to actually kind of leverage some of that rest, and how will Tocchet use that, and will Miller get back involved in the penalty kill, or is that era over?
And I'd be curious too to see if they go back to Petey at all in a line matching role.
I mean,
or at least rotate him here and there, right? But then you have to wonder, okay, is he playing with Kuzmenko, or is he getting Lafferty, Mikheyev?
He needs more from his wingers. That's the conversation.
But Mikheyev can play that kind of defensive matchup role. So
Mikheyev can do that, and Suter can do that. Like that line as it's set up is a great two-way line. But you're right, Quads. Like you want. I think Pius Suter is a really cool experiment. But if Andrei Kuzmenko is not going to be the guy there, you got to find somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Canucks Conversation with Harman and Quads every weekday at 2 p.m. Be sure to check it out on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. And if you missed it, go check it out on your favorite podcast catcher app.